Generally, when you talk about competence-based assessment, we are talking about a kind of systematic way or approach to looking at the learner in terms of what do they know, where are they coming from, what can they do, and then how best can this be inculcated in them moving forward. Yeah.
What background are we working with that necessitated this dynamic shift in delivery of our curriculum? What informed this?
What informed this was the fact that we needed to be in line with the 21st century skills. Where we are coming from in the 844, there are areas that we do not touch on how the learner is in terms of practicality. We are more of theoretical and exam-oriented, unlike competency-based assessment where we are geared towards being hands-on in all the activities that the learners carry out. In terms of, are they able to make something out of what they learn? Are they able to practically come up with objects in line with the real-life situations? So we are coming from abstract learning to real-life tasks or real-life learning, whereby they are hands-on in all the activities that they are carrying out.
It took a bit of time for acceptance to be there concerning this. I mean, since the rollout of the competency-based curriculum to date, as we are in the stage of constructing classrooms for junior secondary, what did you say about the progress so far?
In line with the construction of classes?
No. In line with the progress of the implementation of the competency-based curriculum, people still were a bit skeptical about accepting it. What did you say about, how far we've gone as a country?
We've made tremendous progress. The learners are excited, especially, and then you can also see there's envy from the other classes, that is the 844 team. They're kind of envious of what these other learners are doing because they're seeing that there's more practical and practicality in everything they do. They're hands-on. The learners are able to carry home and take away whatever they've learned from school and actually practically carry it out in their homes. So we are saying that there's a lot of change, and we can now see positivity in terms of parents accepting and the learners and teachers also accepting that this is the way to go, because there's a lot of change that has taken place in the terms of even pedagogy. The teachers are now changed their focus on the way they approach to teaching and learning. It's more of facilitating the learners other than standing in front of the class to teach the lesson.
All right.
So
before we get to just to understand more about competency-based assessment, because that's the topic of our conversation this morning, one would be interested to know what are these competencies or values that we are looking at to inculcate in the minds of these learners. What is it that forms part of that list?
We have 7 core competencies, and these are the 7 C's. We have communication and collaboration. We have citizenship. We have creativity and imagination. We have learning to learn. We have digital literacy. And those are some of the major core competencies that we need to inculcate in the learners. We're talking of values of being responsible, honesty, So these are basics that were not there before, but now need to be inculcated in the learners moving forward so that they can be able to fit into society and be able to present some of these values moving forward.
A learner who has gone through this, particular system of education, how would you describe, what type of a learner are we trying to achieve by ensuring that they acquire these competencies and these values? What future are we looking at?
We are looking at a learner who is holistic. And this learner is able to fit in every society, because remember they also taught about citizenship as one of the core competencies that need to be inculcated in them. They'll be able to fit in all forms of society. They're meeting up with different kinds of people within the communities. They're able to understand the different cultures of the different learners that they interact with. They're able to present themselves. They're able to be learners that know more about corrupt ways of society, the evils of society, and how to go about them. They're learners who are able to solve problems. Problem solving is one of the key competencies that also are really being stressed on in the CBC. So we are talking about a learner who will be able to do all forms of tasks by being innovative, by improvising, and by kind of trying as much as possible to ensure that they communicate and collaborate with one another in the best terms possible. Yeah.
All right. This is actually coming at a time when the country is actually shifting from what was commonly known as the theory way of learning, and also the memorizing way of learning, to a kind of learning that will enable the learner to be able to do something for themselves, to make critical decisions, and of course also to be able to acquire the values that Genevieve has cited there. But I'm looking at the list and even the examples of the competencies that you have cited, and this actually is something that teachers alone cannot be able to acquire. Probably talk to us about the role of the parent in ensuring that the learner acquires some of these competencies and all that.
Thank you very much. Parental engagement in CBC or CBA for that matter is quite crucial. We are saying that as learners get to learn at school, parents are also being engaged and trained in terms of when they have their meetings at school, to be able told on what are the expectations of this learner, because you're trying to create a learner that at the end of the day is wholesome in terms of, are they honest in everything that they do at school? Are they able to communicate and collaborate with one another? Do they have fights here and there? Are they able to solve a problem? For example, you send a learner to the shop to buy an item. Are they able to know that this is the change that is required for me to come back with? This is what I've been sent to do. Like in before, we always make fun of this. You'd be sent to the shops and you keep cramming everything that you've been told to buy. So I've been told to sugar, blood, sugar, sweets and all that. So now we are saying that this should be taught at school. Financial literacy should also be taught at school for the learners to be able to understand this. So how do we bring in the parents? Parents can come in through the teachers when they have open days, and then this is always they're reminded that this is what the learner is expected to do, this is how it is done, and all this literature for those who are able to read is available on the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development website. The same is also available in the NEC websites. We also now have even an interactive app on the where anybody having any phone can be able to download and be able to check real time on how the progress of the learner is at school and where they have challenges. Remember, we are moving from a way of saying excellent, has done well, has done this, but we are being more, we kind of explain that real time, qualitatively. You actually pinpoint and say, this is where Genevieve has a challenge, this is where Sifrin has a challenge. So with all that in mind, then we are moving forward, and all these learners will come out whole, and the parents will be more engaged by all this being done, and we'll see a lot of how can I put it? There's a lot that Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development is doing with regards to this. In terms of when they go out monitoring, are they able to meet these communities around the school? Are these community service learning? Are they able to work with the communities around them? So with that, then it filters right into the community within the school. So we're encouraging work around the communities. If there's an expert in the community that can be able to talk to the learners about, for example, in the arts, how to make pottery, how to do ceramics, how to do sculptures, how to do a dance, then as they come in and interact, they are able to actually see what competencies are expected out of these learners and what values can be inculcated in them when they are also out of school.
There has been concern, what you're saying is important, because there's been concern from certain quarters about the kind of the academic system that we are going through right now. People would cite, you're taught something that you would not even be able to apply in your afterlife. Like, for example, you when you become an adult and you're employed, there are certain mathematical formulas or scientific formulas that probably you ask yourself, why we taken through, this? So my question then is, are we moving away from that academic content completely, or we are looking at a hybrid system of education that will not only will incorporate that content and the life skills that you're talking about?
Thank you very much. Yes, competence-based assessment is not going to be abstract. It's real life.
Okay.
We are engaging with real life tasks, what every learner, every parent can resonate with.
So everything else that is irrelevant is left out?
We can't say really it's irrelevant, because there are cases where some aspects in mathematics or physics make sense depending on the pathway that a learner will want to pick. All right? So we are not saying everything is ruled out, everything that was done was wrong. No. We're just saying now we are getting more focused on what is it that we want this learner to be. The learner will decide, depending on their interest and the pathway that they pick on. When I talk about pathways, is the career path that they'll end up choosing depending on where their skills and abilities are. With that, then it will be possible that we are not abstract, but we are being more real in every aspect that we do. Yes.
What mindset change will the teachers then require to be able to identify these capabilities, these abilities in every learner? Because we have to agree, each and every one of them is different and has skills in different areas.
Yes.
So talk to the teachers. What is it that they will need to be able to, measure up to this new system of education?
Thank you very much. I'm glad to also report that with this change of mindset, a lot has been done with the teachers. The teachers have been trained, one out in each school, because we have 30,000 primary schools in the Republic of Kenya, out of which 6 teachers have been trained on expectations of competency-based curriculum and competency-based assessment. This has been quite successful because it's a multi-agency approach whereby we have personnel from the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, the Kenya National Examinations Council, we have personnel from SEMASTIA, we have personnel from Kenya Institute of Special Education, we have personnel from Quality Assurance and Standards, we have personnel from the ground, those are curriculum support officers, we have champion teachers that were initially identified when all this began. So with all this teams coming together to train the teachers, then a lot has been. And I also want to tell you that this has been quite interactive. So with all this being interactive, the teachers have been able to now see the mindset, the shift from being abstract, from being a teacher standing in front of class to being a facilitator. All right?
Okay.
So you let it be the learners to take charge as you stand in the back and guide them on what is expected. This has been quite positively received because the teachers are now able to actually tell the difference, because we are moving from hiding the mark scheme, what we are now calling the scoring guide. Before, all that was under lock and key, but now the teacher has been asked to come out of that and actually give the learners these marking schemes or marking guides so that the learners know exactly what is it that is expected of me. We are moving from a score A, 80, which we could not really substantiate what that means. We are moving to where we are able to tell the learner, you are meeting expectation, or you are exceeding expectation, or you are below expectation, or you are approaching expectation. Qualitative reporting. They are now able to say exactly where is the challenge when it comes to all this. You're now able to tell me, Susan is able to count 1 to 10, however has a challenge counting 10 backwards, all right? Has a challenge in writing letter P and Q, however is very good at writing all the letters of the alphabet, is able to read this number of words per minute, however has a challenge with this. So you actually pinpoint so that whoever is taking over this learner in the next level knows exactly where the problem is. As they go back home, as you report, the teachers are also now able to tell through the parents from the reporting, from the journals that they write, that this is where your daughter or your son needs help. All right? We are coming from a place whereby we are telling the teachers, you are not going to move forward unless the learners understand the concept that is being taught. You are moving forward. Where there's a challenge, you have to go back and give a learner a personalized kind of approach, where you're personalizing and trying to get them through where they have challenges. So it's not anymore a matter of, I want to complete the syllabus. It's
about the quality that is coming out of it, and whether the learner is getting the concept.
Yes.
For lack of a better term. I like that personalized, kind of a teaching environment. But how practical is it, especially in a country where we have really dealt with the burden of the student-teacher population, the ratio of the teacher and the student? I mean, we are still having a crisis there. How practical is this?
Thank you. That's an interesting question, and everybody keeps asking.
Time is you have to give the learner your time, you have to give them your attention, you have to really work with them throughout their learning journey. If you do this for one learner, you go to the other, I mean, how are we going to make this practical when we are facing the crisis of
Very good. I need to demystify that today. You find in Kenya we have classes of about 100 students. Now, to teachers, it's doable. Remember, we say the teacher is a facilitator and not now going to stand in front there to teach. What we are saying is you are going to have your students into groups. We are no longer having classes whereby everybody is facing the blackboard, but then into those small groups, because we are saying these learners have learned to learn. They have to communicate and collaborate with one another. Once you're able to make these learners into groups in the classes, then through these learners, there'll be peer and self-assessment. They're able to do some of the things you as a teacher may not do. We're even changing the mode of assessment. It doesn't have to be pen and paper. You can still observe these students as they work in their groups, and then use an observation schedule, or just to make it simple, a write-up of expectations of a particular concept in class that you're looking at. Then once you pinpoint and say, this is what I want to see in the learners, is it values I'm looking at? Is it the competencies I'm looking at? And then as you move around class, because it's not possible, as you say, one-to-one is not going to work anytime soon. So the best way is having that. And then still on those groups, the learners could also have a scoring guide or also have a checklist so that they're able to gauge amongst themselves who has done it right and what can we do to make it even better. Open critique, open discussions, group discussions, not a matter of one person standing in front and then delivering. They used to call it verbal diarrhea to all the students in class, sorry for the lack of a better term. But yes, with that, it's possible to actually be able to cover a lesson with all these learners. Group the classes, change the seating position of the classes, have them work in groups of 6 to 8. In those groups, every time pick out a person who will be the team leader, and then the team leader now acts as, should I say, quote unquote, the teacher. And with them, open discussions, encourage them to communicate and collaborate, encourage them to discuss as a team, encourage each of them to demonstrate, encourage teamwork amongst the learners. Once that is done, it becomes very easy for the teachers to be able to manage the classroom, irrespective of the ratios. And that I want to believe with the Teacher Service Commission and what they're doing, that will change with due time.
With due time, and you hope that will happen. One thing I like, though, is that the teacher is now being transformed into a facilitator. Basically, the responsibility lies on the learners, but then now they just, sort of inject their expertise and experience there as the learners, take charge of their learning journey. But there's something you touched on earlier, but I want you to just expound it a little bit. How do you score competency? In the current dispensation, we are used to, for example, you'd get an 80%, a 50%. You can actually tell and say this one got an A, this one got a D. How do you score competency, or how do you score value, for example, to say that this learner has acquired this, has gotten these marks? Or I just want to understand how that is going to work as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good question, and that is what everybody has kept asking. How is it possible? Yes, it is possible. How do we do that? We are moving from the scoring dispensation, whereby you're saying there's an A, there's a B, move away from grading. We are moving to being qualitative in our reporting. And that's, as I said, we have 4 levels that we are using. Exceeding expectation is a level 4, performance level 4. Meeting expectation is 3, below expectation is 1, and approaching expectation is 2. And on this, there's a criteria in which you're going to look at depending on the task that has been given to the learners. And this criteria, it describes each and every bit of what is expected in a particular task. Let me give you an example in my area, art. For example, art, if the learners are doing leaf printing, there could be various aspects that you'll be looking at. For example, are they able to collect the leaves? Are they able to go out there and collect the leaves? Yes. Are they able to categorize and arrange the leaves to make a pattern? Yes. Are they able to take paint and put it on the leaves? Yes. So what I'm saying, yes, are the criterias. So once all these are listed, then the teacher is able to actually see, and the learner herself or himself is able to see, this is what is expected of me in this particular task. On top of that, as you're doing all these tasks, there are elements you're looking out for. When they went collecting these leaves, was there teamwork? Was there communication and collaboration? Were they able to talk to one another? Were they able to collaborate with one another? So all this is also listed amongst the criteria you're looking out for as much as you are teaching a practical component, okay? Values, honesty, responsibility. Are they clearing their working areas? That's a sign of responsibility. That is one of the criteria that you'll have in your scoring guide, that this is what I'm going to look for. So yes, already you're looking at a value, responsibility, honesty. Did they do the work themselves? Yes, honesty is there. They did the work. If not, somebody else did it. So all these are subsumed. You may not just wake up and say, today I'm going to look at values, honesty, responsibility, and the like. Today I'm going to look at this particular core competency. No, all these are subsumed into the task or the learning area that you're looking at a particular time. So yes, it is possible, and with all these descriptors well described in the scoring guide, you're able to pick out and state as you're using your observation schedule to actually score this. So at the end of the day, you'll find that a learner may not have gotten all the performance levels, but at least has exceeded in some areas, maybe in teamwork, in communication and collaboration. They may not have been an expert in the activity they've been given, but they're experts in terms of the competency they have acquired. They have acquired some kind of value in life, of integrity, being honest, and the like. So with time, you ensure that you're building on these competencies, and you're building on these skills, and you're building on these values as they move forward. Yeah.
So do these, move to a level where, for example, in other spheres, you say beginner, and then you go to a more advanced type of content for the learners. Do we have that kind of an arrangement as well? And what would determine, a learner moving from one level to another? What are some of the principles that, need to be considered before you move the learner from one level to the next?
Thank you for that. Yes, that is available. Yeah. And we're saying that the designs were made in such a way that it's cyclic. It gets advanced as they move from one grade to another. Remember, we have early years education. At the early years, we have pre-primary 1 and pre-primary 2. At pre-primary 1 and pre-primary 2, what the learners are doing is basically having activities that help build their motor skills. In terms of, they have language activities, they have mathematical or numeracy activities, they have indigenous language activities. So they're all doing activities hands-on. There's nothing really more about written and all that. And as they move on to lower primary, that is the grade 1, 2, and 3, it gets advanced. What they've done in grade 2, 1, there's an advanced of it in grade 2 and keeps moving grade 3. So either way, whoever picks up the learner will be able to pick up on where they left from and keep developing that competency or that skill as they move up to grade 6. Yes.
And what are the principles that need to be considered before a learner moves from, say, one grade to the other? Considering the fact that you said earlier that the teacher cannot move to the next step before a learner acquires a certain competency. So how do you, how do you move with this group when one is? There are different levels. How do you work with such kind of a difference in learning?
Remember, we are saying that there's individualized planning and learning with the learners. We are saying that these learners should be able to work as teams, should be able to work as collaborating with one another. So what we are saying is, one of the aspects that the teacher should look out for is, you are responsible for this learner. How best would you ensure that this learner has acquired the competency or the skills in a particular learning area before they move forward? All right? So solely the teacher now has a bigger task, and are answerable. Because at the end of the day, you need to ensure that this learner came into this class, they did not know how to read. At the end of a particular grade, there are principles that are being put in place for each learning areas that at the end of this level, this learner should be able to acquire up to this. At this level, this learner should be able to read up to this level. So parents are brought on board here because they are made aware. That's why we're talking about parental engagement. At the end of this level, my daughter or my son should be able to read. For parents who are not literate, then the teachers, there's a check with the Teacher Service Commission. Remember, they have the performance contracts. So really, if there are complaints that are arising that a learner has moved to this level is not able to count, so that means there's a gap. So how do we solve this gap? So we are saying the head teachers and the principals have a lot of work to do here, because they have to be on check. And we're also encouraging group teaching as teachers, because the learner may not be good at receiving guidance from a particular teacher, but then request for help from teamwork, request for help from another teacher. How best can we help this learner be able to read? We're talking about giving extra work, and we're talking about having a lot of reading materials, which I must say the Ministry of Education has done a lot in the Republic through the presidency, that a lot of materials are in supply for these learners to be able to actually be able to meet up to these expectations before they move to the next level. And we are saying nothing will deter a learner from moving to the next grade, because either way, you're looking at a learner as an individual and not as a group anymore. Yeah. So as they move forward, challenges are to an individual and not as a group. So as they move forward, where their challenge has to be brought out qualitatively, and the next person will be able to pick it up from where they have left.
And it can be dealt with in a personalized way. They can create time for addressing that. What cost implications does it come with for the parents, for example, for the school, and even for the government implementing this type of a learning system?
For the government, it's at a cost. But for the parents, there's no cost.
There is no cost?
There's no cost. Why do I say there's no cost?
Tell us a bit
We are
about
talking about improvisation. Avoid downloads. Avoid printing. Remember, all public primary schools were provided with laptops, were provided with tablets.
But are they there?
Yes.
And I want us to be as realistic as possible.
Yes.
Are they there?
All the public primary schools that were in existence before 2017 were provided with laptops, were provided with projectors, were provided with laptops for the teachers, 2 laptops per school, and depending on the classes, some have to between 50 to 100 plus tablets. Now, why am I going there? Because there's hue and cry about printing.
And
go and print this. Go to the cyber, do this.
Yes, that's why I asked the cost, because parents are really crying foul over this. CBC is good, but it has come with a very, very heavy burden on our pockets. How do we manage? How do we sail?
What we are trying to tell parents now is that do not print. What you're trying to tell teachers, do not encourage learners to go home and print. Use whatever is at your disposal within the school environment, within the school community. If I could give an example, again, I'll go back to a practical subject. We're talking about maybe, let's say, music. You're asking learners to come up with a musical instrument. Remember, each community in this country, we have over 47 counties. Each community in this country have an instrument that they can resonate with, okay? So if you're asked to do, for example, a drum, you look for old tins. You look for old leather, which you can get from secondhand, and use it, work as a group, and you'll be able to come up with a drum without incurring any costs. If you're supposed to do some painting, we are encouraging you to look local materials. What are some of the local materials? You can squeeze dyes from plants. I want to give an example of a school where we went and they could not afford paint. And I was like, so what did you do? We used soil. And can I see the prints? And it was excellently done, just using soil. So we are saying innovation, creativity amongst the teachers is quite key. There may have been gaps when the designs were coming up and everybody was, so excited and put in some things, write-ups that this should be done. But we are saying in the learning experiences that are given in the curriculum designs, they talk of learners and teachers trying as much as possible to improvise and avoid unnecessary expenses. We are saying the do and don'ts of CBA and CBC. Do not just go to the cyber and print. And we are saying if this is happening a lot, then we have sites with KICD where this can be brought to the light and we can see how those schools can be assisted.
Because you're talking about laptops and projectors in public schools, and They were given, that's one thing, but are they there? That's the big question. If you visit some of these public schools today, some would even be shocked that you're talking about the fact that they were issued laptops and they should be having projectors. Some have never even seen these laptops.
Can I surprise you?
Vicinity.
Can I surprise you?
Surprise me, I'm ready.
We went to a school, just concluded grade 3, 4, 5, 6 assessments. I mean 4 up to 5 assessments. And schools were a hue and cry in schools because they were supposed to print the assessments, because NEC uploads and then they're supposed to download and print. And we asked the school, do you have laptops? Yes. How many? 100. I mean, tablets. Do you have projectors? Yes. How many? 1, but it doesn't work. Do you have the teacher's laptop? Yes. So we're like, can I have all this brought out? Do you know the laptops had not even been unsealed? They still have the blue stickers, the way they came in 2017.
So they're there, but they've not been...
Yes. And we were able to download all these assessments, put them, and I'm glad ICT is working very well, the ministry. So in every sub-county, there's an ICT expert that had been sent there by the ICT authority. And these gentlemen were able to come over and were able to download all this, help download all these tasks in their tablets. And the learners were pretty thrilled because they were able to just get a piece of paper and look at the questions in color, because 8 CBC is all about everything is in color. So they're able to print, look at all these the downloaded tasks in the tablets and be able to answer them so easily. So there was zero cost on the same.
But this is just one school out of the many others that may
there are
not
several.
Have similar privilege.
They do have several. All the schools, that's what I'm saying with much doubt.
All the schools?
All the public schools that were in existence before 2017 have tablets, laptops and projectors. Schools were even now able to project in cases whereby the tablets are few. Remember, our assessments are supposed to be done at a pace, learner's pace. It's not something that is timetabled. So they would still do that throughout the 2 weeks that they were given to be able to carry out these assessments, and just by projecting them onto the screens or by downloading them onto the tablets. So yes, this is doable.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. We are heading into a season of national examinations right now. There is KCPE and KCSE lined up. Over 2 million candidates are going to be sitting for these particular examinations. Yeah. This is actually a season that is usually a make or break for the candidates. You're either on this side or the other side. That's the culture that has been, that has been planted in our society. With the implementation of the competency-based assessment, what difference is it going to bring in this particular kind of an environment?
Thank you for that. People keep thinking that CBC 844, there's a gap, there's a big difference. The only difference here is pedagogy, the approach to teaching. Yeah. Because I must say that at this level, especially at the higher level, we already have competency-based tasks. They have projects. We have practicals actually ongoing at the moment. And just not to jeopardize the situation, maybe I will not delve much into what is currently going on because the examinations are actually running. But we are saying that these competencies are actually there. It's just that people do not feel it. Art and other subjects, music, are actually timetabled in the 844 timetables, but they are not taught because they are not examinable. Because everybody is exam-oriented, that I will not do this because it is not going to be examined. But at the end of the day, the only difference is that the pedagogy has changed. The mode of assessment has changed. We are talking about a situation whereby the learners are we're no longer looking at scores at the end of it all. We are not looking at assessment at the end of a course. We are not talking about summative assessment. We're looking at formative assessments in CBA. So we are saying that that should not really have an impact on the learners that are currently sitting their assessments. Because,
not necessarily having an impact on the ones who are currently sitting. I'm looking at the future of education, and if all goes well with the implementation of the competency-based curriculum, of course, what is going to happen is the competency-based assessment. So how different will that be with the current KCPE and KCSE?
Thank you for that clarification. We are moving away from having a one-off kind of assessment, whereby if you are done at 844 or KCP at grade 8 or grade Form 4, that is it. We are moving from that. Why do we say that? Because we expect feedback at every little step that we do. We are not going to have a one-off kind of assessment in CBA, okay? Why are we saying that? Because we are actually assessing these learners in small chunks, small bits as they move on. In 844, we have assessment, a summative assessment. We do not have a formative assessment that counts at the end of it all. In CBA, what is going to happen now is we have 3 forms of assessment. We have classroom assessment done by the teacher. We have school-based assessment set and done by NEC, but actually implemented by the teachers within the school environment, not timetabled, because they have to move according to the learner's pace. Some of them have projects, some of them have practicals as they move on. And then at the end of it, they'll have a national assessment. Again, what we are saying is at this level, all the learners are moving off to the next grade and up to grade 6 when they have a national assessment. So at grade 6, grade 9, grade 12, we shall have a national assessment for placement purposes, especially at grade 12, whether they're moving on to going to tertiary colleges or opting to move to the world of work. So learners are being equipped in such a way that you could opt to end at Form 4 at grade 12 and go to the world of work, unlike what we have now, which is a bit different, where they have to move on to tertiary college and move on. So why is this? This is more of a hands-on. The learners are practically engaged in all the works that they do. There's no more rote learning. It's more of a practical, oriented, or performance-based tasks or learning areas that they are able to actually be able to see that there are skills that they have acquired that you can be able to use in the world of work, right up to grade, all those grades. And not to forget, we also have the special needs team, those with special needs, some already in the regular schools and some on their own. These special needs learners are also are on a level where we call stage-based. They don't move as per the age. Unlike the regular CBC, where they are moving as per age from grade 1 to 12, there's also special needs. That's why we're telling parents that kids that have special challenges should not be locked up at home, because now the KICD has come up with curriculum designs that will suit them, where they are engaged in hands-on activities. Could it be drawing? Could it be singing? Could it be dancing? Whatever they like to do within, but basic language skills and whatever are also taught to them, so that at the end of it all, they're also moving forward and are not left behind, because we say no learner is left behind in CBC. Everybody is tagged along, irrespective of the challenges that they have or disabilities that they're having.
So if we are looking at this new, it's not actually new, it has already gained momentum. Does it mean that the score of the learner in every assessment level will count at the end of the day, contrary to what we have now, that a learner can go through, for example, primary school, and they've been performing well, only for something to happen as at the time they were preparing for the national examinations, and they perform not as usual as the way that they have been performing, and then they are judged based on that one outcome. You know, just clarify that a little bit for us.
Good question. Everybody seems to be asking that. Yes, CBC is not a one-off. We are having assessments begin from grade 4, 5, 6. At grade 4, everything they do, the school-based assessment, what we refer to as SBA, that was being done the other day, counts 20%. Grade 5, 20%. Grade 6, 20%. So at grade 6, 60% is from grade 4, 5, 6. The national assessment only accounts for 40%.
40%.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, or by the time you're going for the national assessment, you've already
accumulated 60%. Yes.
All right, that's pretty much fair, because I have a feeling we lose a lot of potential learners along the way, courtesy of that, method of assessing them. They sit for this one examination that is like a make or break for them. Yeah. Maybe they were not feeling well, maybe anxiety, maybe something was happening around that time, and they didn't perform as good as they have been performing throughout their education, and they're judged based on that one examination, and that changes the course of their lifetime. Yeah, let's talk about something else that also has been a concern for many. The competition that has been there, that was used to say that these students are A material, these are B material. I mean, it was good and bad, because good in the sense that it pushed others to really like work hard and want to be in a particular level. It was bad because it demoralized others and made them feel like, we belong in a particular class. How is this going to change going forward, so that we are not just putting learners in one basket? At the same time, we are not discriminating against others. How are you going to,
Yeah, good question. There's no more lumping the learners in a basket.
Yeah.
Every learner has a potential, and each potential is unique in itself. So as learners move forward, each of them is developing a competency and a liking, if I could use very simple terms, for a particular learning area of their choice. You'll get a learner who will say, I want to be music, I want to be a drama, comedian. All this is going to be taught. I want to be a hairdresser, So the tasks and skills need to be developed as the learners move, and the teachers should be able to track the learners' pathways as they move forward, and where their strengths are, and how to make the areas that their weaknesses are even get stronger, so that at the end of the day, all this has been built right from PP1, PP2 as they go on, because they're exposed to an array of learning areas. So it's up to them now to build, kind of decide, where do I belong? And like here, where you are closed, you must do 1, 2, 3 subjects. But as these learners move over up to grade 6, as they're moving over to junior secondary, they've already have kind of built a foundation into where they're going to end up at the end of it all. So the learners can be able to tell this. But then as they move forward, the subjects get lesser, and they're able now to diverge into areas that their interests are. And talents are also being able to be built at this particular level, because if somebody loves football, already that's a sports and science person. If somebody's area is singing and dancing, that's already somebody who is going into the creative person, performing arts. If somebody is oriented to the maths and the sciences, that's already an applied scientist person. So careers are built at a very early age, and skills and talents are tapped early enough, unlike in the previous system where we would lose most of them. And those athletes that we have, those dancers, because people would always blame the kids, you keep on dancing, but you don't know that's where the talent of the learner is. And yes, there are now jobs in all those pathways, all those careers now. So all this will be tapped at an early age to enable the learners broaden their areas of talent and interest as they move forward.
Well, how do you sell that to a society that is really rigid in certain professions? Everyone wants their son or daughter to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to be a neurosurgeon. How do you sell this to that kind of a society?
Once again, we are saying parental engagement, because it all stops, the buck all stops with the parents, and the ones who keep insisting, mine has to be a surgeon, mine has to be this and that. What you're telling them now is things are changing, and we have to embrace the 21st century skills. And we also have to open up to these learners to be in certain careers that everybody is running away from. Look at, for example, plumbing. Plumbing is a career that people's demeaning, but out there, they're the most well-paid. Look at painters, look down upon, look at artists, and they're all sorts of artists. Could be a singing artist, could be a drawing artist. Everything around us ends up being one way or the other has an opportunity in life. And that's why we're saying 21st century skills. These are real life tasks, real life skills that the learners will be able to acquire as they move forward. So we need to open up, and there's a lot to be done. And that's why we are even here in studio trying to demystify that we don't have to really stick to certain aspects of careers and let the learners open up. Have discussions with their learners so that they're able to understand, why do I have to choose this and why not that? Leave them. Let us have a discussion with the parents so that they're able to do whatever they feel they have interest in. Yeah.
All right. There's one thing I want us to, you touched on it earlier, concerning the role of the parent in this particular learning journey. Some are not literate, some are literate, some are illiterate. They may not be able to walk with the learner, throughout that particular journey. And we have seen a structured way of training teachers to be able to implement the CBC successfully. We have seen a structured way of implementing CBC on the learner's part. They started with a pilot and it's graduating slowly, progressively. What about the parent? Has there been a structured or a formal way of bringing the parent on board also to be part of this particular journey? What is being done to that end?
There's a lot of it's very good. There's a lot of sensitization taking place right from the zonal levels. At the zonal levels, we have what we refer to as curriculum support officers. We are saying there's supposed to be community engagement within a locality. So with that, yes, it has been possible during open days to bring these parents on board. We have champion teachers within each of those zones. So right from school, out of the school, the local community, the chiefs, the sub-chiefs, and everybody else, there's this talk that is going on, and I know we still have a lot to do with regards to sensitizing them on the same, but KICD, through the outreach programs, are also doing a lot in trying to reach out to the parents through various radio stations, through print media and the like. I know there are parents that, yes, are illiterate, and we are saying, how best can this be done? This can be done by asking the learners to work as teams, communicate and collaborate. We're talking about citizenship. Help your neighbor. What is your neighbor doing? What is your immediate neighbor doing? What challenges do they have? Bring them together. There are kids who don't even have parents. So again here, we are talking about the teacher trying to bring all the learners together and seeing who needs help and where. What we call community service learning is actually being taught in schools, community service learning. And they are able to use donors and sponsors on how to see how are we going to have this an outreach program to be able to bring in everybody and let the learners know that as we are in this community, we are a community. The school is a community. And in this community, what can we do to best help our neighbor who is not able to or who cannot be able to read or write? So that you're teaming, as a teacher, as a class teacher, you're teaming your learners with somebody from around their village or around their home that they can always work with. Where there's a challenge, they get back to school and see to it that this is sorted out. And then remember, they're also being taught indigenous language within the locality. So they're able even to talk to them in mother tongue so that they're able to understand this learner has been given this homework and this is what is expected. So just ensure that you see that they are doing it and not just staying away. That way the parents will also feel engaged and wanted within the society, so that the kids are not just running around without doing work, but they are told that this is what they are doing, this is where you can help, and this is how you can go about it. Yeah.
Just something that I came across while I was preparing for the show, on the part of parents still, just to address some of the concerns. Some are not comfortable seeing their children in sackcloths. Some practical lessons involve going to clean up public places. Others, weddings are officiated in schools. I mean, are these necessary skills? Are these the competencies we are talking about?
Thank you for that. Yes and no. Okay, there are things that maybe a teacher may have gone overboard in trying to, because every teacher has to look at the learning experiences as prescribed in the designs, but then some of them kind of do not interpret it in the right way. And those are some of the things we are looking at when it comes to training. We keep training them because nobody was trained to teach CBC. And these teachers left college and are out there now doing their thing the way they think is right. But yes, we have addressed some of these issues. We are bringing corrective measures on how to go about it so that we are also not going overboard. And I want to believe in the near future, you're going to see a difference. That was just...
We're not going to see our children in marketplaces cleaning.
But cleaning is okay.
Yeah.
Because just even at home, the kids clean. All right? You are trying to tell them you can work as a community. At the end of the day, they could be cleaning even around their village. How do they make it clean? So there are things that are okay, but there are things that they may have gone overboard. But cleaning is an activity that is taught the world over. You have to learn how to clean it. And there are open days written up at the UN when there are cleaning days in the world. So there are activities that, yes, will go on, but it depends on how they are put across and what parents feel, because it's just the same as saying that your kids cannot clean their house or your kids cannot clean around their house. Yes, measures should be put in place so that they're able to understand why are we doing this. Once they're able to understand that, and you as a parent also back them up and see to it that this is what is required. And that can also be corrected by us again reaching out to the parents. Outreach programs to be able to know what is expected and what are the limits and how will we do this best. It's a conversation between all of us. It's not a one-off.
Yeah, but you do agree there could be some have gone overboard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's what you've described. You know, has a lot to do with the self-judgment of the teacher, assessing the learner and looking at their challenges and some of their also looking at their potential. What is being done to ensure that in as much as there is that difference in self-judgment and difference in the journey that the learner is taken through, at the end of the day, all these learners are walked through a system that will take them towards a particular direction, so that there is no much diversity in the learning journey of different learners. What is being done to that particular regard?
Thank you. With regards to that, remember we have one uniform curriculum design. Teachers could interpret it in different ways.
Yeah.
And now we also have what we call guides for the teachers, specifically to guide them on what to expect and how to go about them, how to go about the teaching process or facilitation process in the various classes. I know we have diverse schools, different backgrounds and everything else, but we are saying that in the designs, it's specific. I mean, we've ensured that the curriculum developers have ensured that they're giving different learning experiences to cater across board, depending on, it doesn't matter, because one of the key elements is that we have to ensure that there is equity in either teaching, learning, and assessment, all right? So as we assess, as assessors, we ensure that any task that is given cuts across and every learner will be comfortable carrying out that task. How do we ensure that? For example, I want to give an example of maybe a practical, maybe in agriculture, whereby you're told to plant certain crops. There are areas that are not endowed with certain climatic regions, types, so maybe be affected. So as they do this, they ensure that this, whatever they're giving other areas that these other regions that are affected by a particular type can opt for a particular question, so that at the end of the day, all the learners are equal. Where the learners have challenges, maybe because of certain disabilities, we do what we call adaptations for them to be able to, as much as they're doing this task, it's adapted to suit them. They are modified in such a way that these learners are also able to do the same. So generally, this curriculum caters for all the learners, irrespective of what region they come from, irrespective of whether they have electricity or not. At the end of the day, the assessment will be for all and will be suitable for all of them.
All right.
Yeah.
In the current dispensation, concern has been on the integrity of the process. We've had cases of exam cheating and all that. Are these concerns that you're also worried about under the competency-based assessment, and what is being done to seal such loopholes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Because there's no ranking, definitely there'll be no cheating, but how are we going about it? Integrity is key here. And I must say, we have, for the last few tasks we have given, we've seen a lot of integrity displayed by our teachers. That one we must say, thumbs up for them. How do we do this? We actually give tasks that you can't be able to cheat in, because these tasks require hands-on activities, all right? and they have different stages. So once they're performance-based and you have to have a product that has been done, then we'll be able to see that this task has been done by the learner. And there are criteria that are in place to actually ensure that is done. The tasks are given within a limited period of time so that there's no monkey games going on. There's a lot of monitoring, multi-agency monitoring during this process, during the time that the tasks are being done, right from the grassroots, where we have curriculum support officers, we have Directorate of Quality Assurance officers, right in the field. These are zoned and they're able to oversee what is taking place in the schools. We're also ensuring that the tasks that are given, there are an array of tasks are given, which are practical, as I've already mentioned earlier. We're also training the teachers on how best to assess these tasks. And as we're doing that, we're also trying to inculcate the culture of integrity in them by telling them that this is one of the professional aspects of you as a teacher that you're supposed to carry out. So yes, that will actually enable us be able to cut down on that with continuous training. And remember, this training is not a one-off. We train every holiday through the Teacher Service Commission. This is done and we keep on stressing. And then NEC, Kenya National Examinations Council, as an individual, has also ensured that training on how to assess this task was done to we did 4,000 regular teachers and 2,471 teachers from special needs education institutions were also trained on this, so that they're able to cascade the rest to the rest.
Yes. Genevieve, I want us to take a very short break right now. We are coming back to continue this conversation. As we take that break, we're talking about the competency-based assessment, and of course we will be back to discuss more on this. I'm engaging Genevieve Kopio. She's from the Kenya National Examination Council, a subject specialist. Let's take that break now.
Do you have a new story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
To get Romans chapter 10 as your skiza tune on your phone, dial star 811 star 962 hash.
If you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Romans chapter 10 verse 9.
To get Romans chapter 10, dial star 811 star 962 hash. Star 811 star 962 hash.
Mundos divididos por una sombra de traición.
I know that your father made a scene, but don't let that bother you. I understand why that makes you angry, and I know a lot of other things are bothering you. But you can't hold any of us responsible for that. Why are you waiting for the wedding to take place?
I'm sure that Damian Ferrer is going to try to hurt Mariela in order to stop her from getting married to his son.
Did you know? Because of all those things you did, you could end up in jail for the rest of your life.
You want me to call the police? For goodness sake, you have to help me. Cut it out, attorney. Lying heart.
Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición.
What do you want?
You're a cheater.
Pinky, were you thinking you would divorce Jack and then raise the baby on your own? Is that it?
Pink, it's my baby. So think about it. If I gave up on Pinky and the baby and continue seeing you, what kind of father would I be?
Get out. Come on, get out.
God, Shannon.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Of course, on the first part of the program, in case you're just joining us, this is News Check. We have been talking about the competency-based curriculum, just looking at its implementation and also discussing in depth the competency-based assessment, how it's done, its importance, and how it is different from the current form of examining learners. And of course, I've been having this conversation together with Genevieve Copio. Genevieve is a specialist dealing with fine art and design at the Kenya National Examination Council. Thank you, Genevieve, for your time. A lot you have shared concerning the competency-based assessment, and I just want us to wind up this conversation. Just quickly tell us a little bit about, what you foresee as the future of education if things go according to plan, if we do not experience any technicalities. What is the future that you see with our learners and even their state of preparedness for the work environment?
Thank you very much. Going forward, we have a bright future for this country because we're going to have enough personnel for the workforce in terms of competencies that have been acquired, cutting across all the subject areas, all the fields. Those that have always been left behind, like stand-up comedians, public speakers, dancers, drama, all that. Everybody will have a place to be in, sports and activities. So generally, we can't say there's going to be a challenge coming future, but the workforce will be more richer because as we speak now, we lack so many personnel in the fields of the technical areas. We don't have plumbers, we don't have painters that are professionally trained, and people seem to be looking down upon certain careers, but now it's becoming demystified because even a hairdresser that you take for granted will now have a place in society and really stand out so that nobody demeans any kind of profession. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. But before we get there, are there any technicalities or challenges that you foresee, and how do we address them so that we can get to that future that you have shared with us?
The teaching force, we want to believe once they get equipped and retooled, then the future for us is very bright. The teaching force. Basically that should be it. And then once we have the infrastructure in place in terms of equipment, in terms of classrooms, which is ongoing as we see, but once that is done and then we have the ratio to student gets a little bit better, then definitely we will make it. But irrespective of that, all is well.
All is well. Thank you for that assurance, Genevieve Copio from the Kenya National Examination Council. We have been talking about the competency-based assessment. Once again, asante sana for creating time for us. All right, right here on News Check, we are following up quite a number of events for you. And before we get to the second conversation we are going to be having here as we assess the state of politics in the country on the other side, I just want us to quickly cross over to the National Assembly. This particular morning, the National Assembly Agriculture Committee is meeting the Agriculture CS, Peter Munya. He's expected to shed light concerning the high cost of fertilizers in the country. I just want us to listen into that, and then when we come back, we'll be getting into the second interview, looking at the state of politics in the country this morning.
Who are contributors to the 100% food and nutrition security. The following is my specific responses to specific questions in the statement. First question is to explain the discrepancy in the price of fertilizer in the neighboring countries. Sir Chairman, fertilizer prices in Kenya and neighboring countries depend on the prevailing international free on board prices. Fertilizers used in the East African region are imported and arrive at either the port of Mombasa or the port of Dar es Salaam. That is the East African coast. In the past 10 months, fertilizer prices in the world market have been on an upward trajectory, which in effect has led to high domestic prices. The reasons for high price fertilizer prices: one, the rise in fertilizer prices is due to the impact of COVID-19, which led fertilizer producing countries such as China, Russia, and Turkey restricting exports to protect their farmers and heavy consumers such as India, Brazil, and USA buying large quantities, hence creating market scarcity. 2, due to severe winter, gas prices exploded in Europe, causing many urea and nitrate production factories to close, thus causing shortage of these fertilizers. 3, increased demand for fertilizer by heavy consumers led to competition for shipping, thus increasing the freight charges for bulk and container cargo to high levels. 4th, electricity challenges in China led to some fertilizer plants being closed down. The cost and freight CFR East Coast for a metric ton of the ammonium phosphate, that is DAP fertilizer, is currently US dollars $8.90, which translates into a domestic price of Kenya shillings 5,700 to 6,500 per 50 kg bag in the East African region. The trend is the same for urea, NPKs, CAN, and other fertilizers. If this trend continues, DAP prices may go as far as 7,000 Kenya shillings per bag. The current East Coast fertilizer prices are as shown in the table below. Chairman, I don't think I need to read the prices. You can look at that table. It gives you the current prices for DAP, CAN, urea, NPK for the 50 kg bags, and the dates when those prices were recorded. We are saying, given the circumstances, and now even the war in that region, Russia and Ukraine, the prices could even go further. And also, if you look at the Kenya shilling, it's still not very steady. There is even some decline that also contributes. So it's not just the prices in the globally, but also the strength, the Kenya shilling losing its strength against the dollar. That also contributes to the price escalation at the local level. So if you look at Chairman, we've done a spot check to look at the prices in East Africa for those fertilizers that we use commonly. You'll see DAP in Kenya is between 5,700 to 6,100. In Tanzania, it is 5,700 to 6,100. The same for CAN, 4,200 to 4,500. If you check Tanzania, it's the same, 4,200, 4,500. Uganda, the same, 5,000. In fact, it's higher, 5,000, 5,500. You look at DAP for Uganda, 5,900 to 6,500. So Uganda is even higher than our prices here. Tanzania is comparable because they also have a port. We have a port, so it goes to Uganda. There is a slight escalation in terms of cost. The high prices, as I've already said, are projected to borrow for up to August, but I would be very careful not to say that because there's a lot of volatility in the world market because of some unforeseen circumstances. What measures has the government put in place to subsidize duty on important phosphates? Mr. Chairman, rock phosphate is important to Kenya for purposes of making fertilizer blends, and NPK compounds does not attract excise duty or value-added tax. But before I go to that, Chairman, I wanted to make it very clear there is no better prices in the neighboring countries, as my answer indicates. If what they produce in those countries are cheaper, it's for other reasons, not the cost of fertilizer. Some of the resources, some areas, they don't even apply fertilizer and they grow maize, like in Uganda. So you'll find the maize arriving cheaper. And they have, more better rainfall in those areas. So you see, it's not the fertilizer cost there are other elements that make it sometimes cheaper to get produce from those neighboring countries cheaper than here. It's not the cost of fertilizer. It's not the cost of inputs. And also the demand, because our market is bigger. A lot of times we don't produce enough. Like maize, we don't produce enough maize for our domestic market. That's a fact. So we are forced to import maize from neighboring countries. In any case, we are one East African market, so there is even no law that restricts them from selling to our market or our people trained as buying across. We produce wheat, we produce only 20% of our wheat requirements. So 80% of our wheat requirement, Chairman, is imported wheat. So there are other factors apart from fertilizer that make us importers of food, not just inputs, because cost of food is determined by many factors, inputs being one of them. So the measures we have taken. So I have also made it clear, Chairman, there is no there is no excise duty or value-added tax on fertilizer. And the reason is, of course, to make it cheaper, to make access to fertilizers cheaper. And as I've already explained, it is other factors other than tax that are actually increasing the cost of our fertilizer. Of course, there are other normal taxes that are charged on all imports.
All right, that is the Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya there appearing before the National Assembly Agriculture Committee. We are going to be giving you more details about that particular forum in just in our comprehensive news bulletins. But right now, it is a heightened political activities in the country, and this particular morning, Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka is having a press briefing. Of course, we'll be linking up with our team on the ground when this happens. We will be giving you more details about that as soon as it happens. A lot is expected in the country at this particular time. You can see pictures there on your screen. That is the leaders from the Wiper Party. The party leader Kalonzo Musyoka is expected to be addressing members of the Fourth Estate. Remember yesterday, the One Kenya Alliance was expected to sign, deliver official documents of the signing of the coalition with the Azimio la Umoja at the Registrar of Political Parties, an event that did not take place, coming courtesy of information that the One Kenya Alliance issued that they're going to be postponing that until a later date this week to accommodate other partners. Of course, this is something that we're expecting to be developing this particular week, as the One Kenya Alliance is supposed to be officially joining the Azimio la Umoja movement. Of course, once the party leader Kalonzo Musyoka begins his address to members of the Fourth Estate, will be going straight to this particular presser for you. But before that happens in studio, what we are doing is just to assess the state of politics in the country this particular morning. Of course, a lot has really happened, picking from the weekend. And in studio to help me have this particular conversation, I'm having a panel of two, a balanced panel. A lady and a gentleman. I'll begin from my far left there, Gloria Horoba. Gloria is a youth policy analyst, and of course an aspirant in Bobasi constituency. I must add that. And of course we have Willie.
Yes.
Willie is a politician, and of course has a lot when it comes to governance and leadership. Thank you so much, Willie, for creating time for us. Willie Kamau.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, we want to talk about the state of politics in the country. And right now, let me just begin from, what happened and characterized the weekend. It was a weekend of conventions. I must say. We saw the Jubilee Party have their own National Delegates Conference. We saw the Orange Democratic Party also have their own National Delegates Conference. But that aside, what really, culminated both events was when Jubilee Party and ODM and the One Kenya Alliance publicly declared their intention to work together ahead of the 2022 general election. I'd like to get your quick comments about the activities that shaped the weekend. I'll start with you, Willie, then Gloria can also chip in.
All right, asante sana, Saf. I was very lucky to be here on Saturday among the panelists of the guys who are analyzing the event. And you remember we had a conversation about Kalonzo in Oka.
Let me just cut you short. Allow me to do this very quickly. I understand the Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has just begun his presser. Let's listen into what he's saying and then we can continue with our conversation in studio.
It would be fair that we start with a word of prayer. I want to ask Apostle Collins to lead us in a word of prayer.
Thank you. I want us to pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, I give you praise this morning. Thank you for giving us another chance. Lord, I pray as we are going to give the brief, I pray that you are going to back our words. In the mighty name of Jesus, I pray and believe. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joey. And thank you, Pastor Apostle Collins. I hear a lot of silence. Please relax. Remember, I used those words on Saturday. It's time for us to relax as a nation, even as we embark on some very important national duties and obligations. This is therefore my personal statement based on the NASA deal between, and I'm just quoting it as it was written. It doesn't mean I do not regard my brother as officially and commonly referred to, but this is between Mr. Raila Amolo Odinga and Mr. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, dated the 30th April 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin the fresh round of political negotiation in our country, leading to the August 2022 general election, I've been compelled to release the above document in order to answer in part some of the criticism that has been labeled against me, to wit, and I quote, the indecisive kingmaker, end of quote, and the often quoted statement made before the NTV reporter, I believe that's my son Kennedy, to the effect that I would be a fool to support Honorable Raila Odinga a third time without a measure of reciprocity. In releasing this document, it is imperative to mention that I've tried twice to have Professor Makau Mutua convene a meeting and my brother Honorable Raila Odinga in his capacity as the depository of this most important document. On his part, Professor Makau stands in breach of his obligation under the agreement, since he has already joined Honorable Raila Odinga's campaign team. By accepting nomination of the Orange Democratic Movement to run as president for the 5th time, I believe my brother Raila Odinga has committed an irreparable material breach of this agreement. Now that's a legal term defined, I quote, irreparable material breach shall mean a repudiation, reneging, a violation, or an ouster in any way of any of the articles of the agreement. Attending the ODM Delegates Conference, at which my brother was named a presidential flag bearer, would have meant on my part acquiescence of the impugned breach. I wish therefore to state as follows. My brother has the option of abiding by the terms of this live legal agreement, live binding legal agreement, and thereby emerging, in my view, as a true national, regional, and indeed continental democratic hero, or he has the option of choosing to act in utter defiance and repudiation of the agreement, and thereby compounding the trust deficit. In both cases, Honorable Raila Odinga remains a brother with whom I've labored in absolute good faith to bring true democratic change to our country. As already publicly expressed, I'm ready to work with him again under the three-pillar grand coalition government for the sake of our nation. I urge that we engage in fresh negotiations. I urge that as we engage in fresh negotiations, this document forms the basis of such negotiation. I want to give you just a copy. I'll actually spread. I'll distribute the copies of the agreement, but I just want to highlight one or two small paragraphs in it. It's actually entitled the NASA Deal. And by its nature, this document was a secret document. But it starts by saying this memorandum is a binding legal agreement between the parties. And the parties have been explained. And I've highlighted the paragraph which reads, the commitments made herein shall bind Principle H, read Raila, and Principle Q, read Kalonzo Musyoka, in both the 2017 and 2022 elections. By this agreement, the parties agree that Principle H will be NASA's presidential nominee, and that Principle Q will be his running mate. And then, most importantly, this agreement will remain valid until the 2022 elections, whether or not NASA wins the 2017 presidential elections. Please underline the words, whether or not we won the elections. And on the Articles of Agreement, I highlight Principle 2. Principle H agrees in a public MOU to serve one term and publicly endorse Principle Q as a presidential candidate for 2022. Therefore, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, if anybody has had any difficulty whatsoever with my sense of negotiation and my ability to play it straight and candidly, I hope today I've acquitted myself. I see the very nice headlines today in the media, that there's tension between me and my brother. I want to tell you there's none. And in effect, some of you say, I ask His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta to take leadership of the current round of negotiations. I think it's right and proper, considering he has a sense of authority, he's a sitting head of state, and whether some of you want to refer to him as an outgoing president, in my view, there are the presidents who have been outgone in our region and still hold great sway, not only in their countries, but in the countries of the African region. That is why somebody like President Obasanjo, my friend President Kikwete, who is actually in town, and others continue to be revered heads of state. I see President Uhuru Kenyatta playing that role into the future. But I want to urge that he plays even presently. So, ladies and gentlemen, this was my personal statement. As you can see, I don't even know where these washmiwas have come from. Somebody must have sent a tweet or something, a hashtag personal statement, and then people felt, yeah, the true volcano is here. And indeed it is. Yes. And you should not expect anything. I promised the country in the days past that they're going to see a different Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. And we therefore embark on this. We have already been clear on our Buffalo approach, the Buffalo Soldier approach. We've been very clear on our Clarion Call, Hakika Tutaweza. Been very clear in our commitment to literally end corruption in our country. Thank you. I don't know whether anybody would want to ask a question in the light. I'll ask Dennis to give you copies of this agreement, and one of which I'll give to Apostle Collins to representing the church, because the church is the conscience of the nation. So that this, I ask the Kenyans engage in a very honest conversation about this document. In fact, this is my contribution to intensifying our democratic practice, so that leaders going forward will not want to cut corners where it is clear what they should do.
The Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka there addressing members of the Fourth Estate at the command center in Karen, and of course just addressing quite a number of issues that have been raised concerning his preparedness for the 2022 general election. The party leader there citing a document dated 30th April 2017 that was between him and Honorable Raila Odinga concerning who was to be the presidential candidate in 2017 and 2022, and who was going to be the running mate, according to the Wiper Party leader there. Citing that this was a legal and binding document between him and Honorable Raila Odinga, and of course also talking about the plans for 2022, saying that this document was not only binding in 2017 but also in the 2022 general election. I understand he still has more to say, so we are going back to that particular presser, then we can kickstart our interview.
Get into this season with the full confidence that this is a nation under God. And leaders should continue, when they issue commitments to each other, they should endeavor to honor them. Yes, madam. Eri? Mwangi. I hear Mwangi, the first one I didn't. Never mind. I just say that because of making this public, and the person who should have made it public is in breach himself, okay? I say that this document, in my view, should form the basis of honest conversation. Well, that would be another story. We tell Kenyans, they refuse. Fine, and we'll move on. But my commitment to move on the basis of the grand coalition, three-pillar base, is a consultative thing. I had full consultations as party leader of Wiper with my team. Some differed, some didn't. The majority view was, let's proceed. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
When you spoke at the Jubilee NDC, the KICC, you spoke about the Azimio One Kenya Alliance. Had you considered the fact that there was a pending issue on the master deal while making that comment, or was it just also just the mood of the day?
No, not the mood of the day. In fact, I was not the only one who spoke about Azimio NASA. No, not Azimio NASA. Azimio Oka. I was waiting for you to correct me. The president himself, actually, in a very dramatic manner, said that we now have two presidential candidates. That the Honorable Raila Odinga has been proposed by ODM. Wiper on their part has also given a name of a presidential candidate, and therefore, these two gentlemen will meet at some point, and whoever emerges as the flag bearer of Azimio Oka Grand Coalition will receive everybody's support. The president himself was more vocal on that subject than I was. And therefore it was fully consultative. So nobody should ever try to talk about any other leg because these legs have been agreed. Oh, another mom? NTV, yes.
So there was information that came yesterday that Oka was supposed to sign a petition.
Oh, that was meant for yesterday.
Yeah, but it was later postponed because they said that there are new members who are doing
No. Nobody talked about new members. I think the statement just simply said that we are postponing the signing, maybe to tomorrow. There's two nitty-gritties that need to be agreed on the wording and the what, but we're all committed to signing, for sure. Oka as an entity.
Okay, so Moses Kuria says that he's willing to work.
Why don't you ask Moses Kuria that question? I can't answer on his behalf. Be fair. Just be fair. I'm sure he's able to answer for himself. Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, Dave. You work with? KTN. Okay.
You are depending on President Uhuru Kenyatta to broker this deal and the case to leave the control. President Uhuru Kenyatta was at an ODM NDC and he has openly endorsed Namida Raila Odinga. How do you navigate that?
Very good question, Dave. But when we were at the NDC, Jubilee's NDC, I remember before I arrived at KICC, there was a 411 alert saying that Raila was on his way from Kasarani to KICC expecting endorsement. Now, my brother Uhuru Kenyatta, in his personal capacity, can endorse, but wouldn't you think the most important endorsement would have been that of the delegates conference? Just like Raila was endorsed by ODM, I was endorsed by Wiper, okay? But Jubilee did not endorse any candidate. Even if they said, our dume wawili, wasonge mbele. One of them will emerge as a presidential candidate. So the position I take is that of the party. But President Uhuru Kenyatta is within his rights to support. But of course, I don't know why you say I'm relying. It's not, I think you overdo it, Dave, that I'm over-relying. I'm not over-relying. We just negotiating going forward. And I'm quite sure President Uhuru will also be at liberty to change his mind. Please.
Additional question based on that.
Because you've been conspiring quietly.
I'm John from KBC.
Yes.
The question being, because the president, you've said and you've suggested the president takes charge of the negotiation.
Well, suggested takes charge. I'm just suggesting. By the way, it's not mandatory. In fact, let me be frank with you, my friend from KBC. If we were to follow the letter and spirit of the document I've just circulated, there's no need for mediation. It's not a mediation process. It is just a simple matter, and I've given the two options. Yeah, my friend has the option to abide by his own signed commitment, or he says no, and then enhance what I call a trust deficit. Yes, I think we take more and we finish. And before you, and because you need time to digest what I've just circulated. It is very important for us, for this country, even for future generations. Yes. Hata hiyo shida yenyewe mwenyewe uko nayo. Hata tafsiri yenyewe uko na shida nayo. Kwa sababu sikusema sitafanya kazi. Hiyo ni yako kabisa. I said the opposite. Bali na yote hayo, kutokubaliana, kutofanya lolote, watu kuchukua msimamo tofauti na yale ambayo wamekadiriwa, yale wenyewe wameweka sahihi, na sijui kama kuna mtu bado amefanya hivyo, lakini mieleza kabisa the legal position kwamba ingawaje yote hayo pengine waende yakafanyika, lakini tumetangaza wazi kwamba tuko tayari kufanya kazi na jina lenyewe limebainika wazi, Azimio Oka Grand Coalition. Sasa hayo yako umeyatoa wapi rafiki yangu?
Kuna uwezekano kwamba ama umepata mwaliko kwa ule muungano wa Kenya Kwanza kufanya nao kazi?
Umepata wapi hiyo?
Nauliza.
Umeniuliza kama umepata mwaliko? No. Sijapata. Na kama huko in writing nipatie. Sijaona. From now on this is good. I think I like that. Kwa hivyo tuache maneno ya, unajua Wakenya wako na kwanza social media, na washukuru sana. Wanatoa maajabu. Umesikia wengine wanasema Kalonzo atakuwa hiki, wengine maajabu. Speculation. But that is it. We must celebrate social media. I want my daughter to ask a question. Liz, is it?
Liz.
Yes. Yeah. Naam. Tutavuka daraja hiyo tukifika. Irreducible minimums. Pia tutavuka daraja hiyo tukifika. Nimesema mazungumzo yameanza. Sasa irreducible minimum, soma hiyo document ambayo nimekupatia. Utapata kwamba irreducible minimum ni kwamba my brother Raila Odinga, by honoring this document, will pronounce his brother the flag bearer for Azimio Oka.
Lakini bibi kuna kitu nimeelewa. Bado wakati kwamba ni lazima hili litendeke apate kwanza kubaliana na kile alichokuwa hili ama kutoka pale.
Sije kusikia hapo Liz.
Are you saying that this time you will not support Raila Odinga?
No, I've not said any of that. I've said, Chemutai, I've said everything is discussable, everything is on the table, and what I've just given you today will form the basis of future negotiations. Yes. Yes, Justice. Kwanza nyinyi ndio umeandika leo headline tension. Basi toa hiyo pension. Kwanza punguza hiyo pressure. No, I'm not saying unatoa barakoa. Ni ku reduce tension ya nation. Naam.
With the dissolution of National Super Alliance.
Yes.
Is this document still binding? That's the first question. And two, what options do you have? Three, will you attend tomorrow's Azimio rally?
Tomorrow I'm not attending for sure. I have read about it in the media because that's a straight one. Okay? And we will attend once everybody is at peace and at liberty. We can't repeat the mistakes of the past. One time this happened in a famous grounds called Hadija Gardens. Unaenda unapata watu wamejipamba kivyao, kama wakati ule the celebrated instrument was a hammer, which was a very ugly American car in my view. Lakini sasa watu wa Kenya wakaona hammer ni nyundo. I remember asking my people, our friends, because we are all in ODM Kenya, tuliwacha lini wakati wa mambo ya machungwa sasa unabeba nyundo? We don't want that kind of crowd effect. This country is more important than a group that gets together, psychs each other to the detriment of the greater good of this nation. So, I'm not attending Nakuru, but that doesn't mean I will not attend. Once we are all in agreement, we shall move. Now, what was your first question? Now, NASA, this has nothing to do with the NASA coalition deal. This was separately negotiated. All right? That's why actually I pity my friends who left me for Kenya Kwanza. Yeah? My DVD and Weta. They told me in 2017, sisi tumekubali ni Raila. You as his running mate, whatever mtakubaliana ni yenu. So I went ahead and negotiated this very important legal binding document. So when I saw Weta getting thrown out as the minority deputy or minority leader in the Senate, and then he said that these things would be nasty. What is it? Messy. The divorce would be nasty, messy. I could understand. These are my friends. I truly miss them. Another question? What options? I don't know what options. You want me to put all my cards on the table? Bwana. Listen, you're looking at a very tough negotiator, and this is what Kenyans, by the way, you people in the media help me. When you insist on your strict legal rights, nobody should say indecisive. And you know, please take it from me, I'm involved in saving lives in the region by way of having heads of state negotiate positions. On Thursday, I'm joining President Museveni. That is day after tomorrow, in Entebbe, to try and see whether we can help our brothers too in Sudan, at least to come up with one army, national army. But if you hear them debating on whether SPLM-IO, which is in opposition, SPLM in opposition, or whether it is SPLM-IG in government, because of them are holding to the sanctity of the name SPLM, one says, no, IO, you get 40%. And IG says, no, we're in government, we must get 50%. And over that, people went through the cantonment processes. Have not even been able to graduate. So this is why these are important matters. If we just throw in the towel and play to the frenzy, celebrate greatness again, that's why I actually remember I said going to Sekuru was an option. But I would want Kenyans to know why, if I choose to Sekuru, why is that an option? And I want therefore to invite serious Kenyans who care about this nation to join me. Otherwise mtakuwa nyinyi wote mnaweza kufurugwa, kumaliza nchi na kutokuwa na amani. Lakini Mungu ako pamoja nasi. Yes. Of course that is dissolved. NASA is dead. That's why I'm saying my statement, it was unfortunate. It's not binding. And this is not, the fact is a NASA deal is because of that time. And please remember this particular one has no reference to the main NASA deal. I see your point. I actually see your point now. The reference to NASA deal. And NASA, of course, is dead. But this is a matter between two principles, Principle Q and Principle H. But based on the timing. Yeah. Why do you want to answer all the questions? First of all, read the document. Okay.
Leader Kalonzo Musyoka there answering questions from members of the Fourth Estate after presser he has just had with them there. Of course, just addressing quite a number of issues. What stands out is a document that he has unveiled this particular morning that dates back to 30th April 2017 between him and Honorable Raila Odinga concerning presidential candidate and running mate for the 2017 and 2022 general election. According to Kalonzo Musyoka, the two gentlemen had agreed that Raila Odinga was going to be the candidate for 2017, and of course Kalonzo Musyoka was going to be his running mate, and Raila was going to serve for only one term. But for the 2022 general election, according to their agreement, Raila Odinga was to endorse Kalonzo Musyoka as the presidential candidate. And according to Kalonzo Musyoka, Raila's acceptance of endorsement under the Azimio la Umoja is a breach of this particular agreement, and now he has two options: either to abide by the agreement in April 2017 or to continue acting in defiance of this particular agreement. Of course, now which way Kalonzo, which way Raila Odinga? That's the question. What options do they have? And in studio with me this morning, I'm having a panel of two. Gloria Oroba, a youth policy analyst, and of course, Willie Kamau, he is a political analyst. Thank you so much for creating time for us. I know I had asked you that earlier question, but it links to what has just happened and development on that. What do you take of Kalonzo's move to unleash, let me use that term, this document from 2017 April, does it hold any water under the current agreements in the Azimio la Umoja movement?
All right. I feel Kalonzo has refused to move on, to evolve politically in terms of his political character. But in terms of numbers, the Kalonzo of 2017 is not the Kalonzo of 2022. Remember, in 2017, he had the 3 governors, all the aspirants in Ukambani behind him as the kingpin of Ukambani. But today, the 3 governors of Ukambani have preceded, or rather they have proceeded to join Raila, who is already on that side, and Kalonzo is stuck to past agreements. It is time for Kalonzo to evolve, because the Raila of 2017 is not the Raila of 2022. Same goes to Uhuru, same goes to William Ruto. The William Ruto of 2013, 2017 is not the William of. All of these people have evolved politically, and I think it is time for Kalonzo to count his past losses and now fix his eyes on the possibilities of what the future holds for him, because that might cost him big. Because news is not for Kalonzo to support Raila. News, what would make it to the headline is if Raila steps to support Kalonzo, which will not happen because of the implications of politics, because politics is about numbers. I would think Raila is a national figure who has a few regional blocks behind him, but Kalonzo has only a regional block, which is not even sure right now, because he has already had the 3 governors from his region supporting Raila as we speak. And so it is time for him to just count his losses, past losses, and move on.
All right. Gloria, it's a legal document. Kalonzo has kept on underscoring that fact. I mean, there are no repercussions, there are no consequences if it is breached.
You know, the only thing that we have gotten from this press conference that Kalonzo Musyoka has actually called is that he's just reminding us that the likes of Raila Odinga have always been deceitful. It is just a realization, maybe some sort of evidence for those who still believed in Raila Odinga, that listen here, this is a deceitful person, because Kalonzo is holding a document to substantiate his allegations of having, you know, it is time for him to be backed. And he's saying, we even signed a legal document. That's one thing. But on the other side, he's referencing an organization, an entity that does not exist. He's referencing NASA. Just as he has said, NASA is dead. So even if you come with all the legal agreements that you as an individual signed with NASA, yourself you're saying NASA is dead. So within this arrangement that we have now of Azimio, of Kenya Kwanza, of One Kenya Alliance, why are you bringing a document from NASA that is dead, that actually you walked away from and got paid for walking away from it? Because you got paid for walking away from NASA.
We cannot do that. Yes.
So the point is, the point here is, if I was Kalonzo, and I understand that it is he's trying to negotiate, to use, let me say, intimidation and bullying tactics of now, I will go and tell people how deceitful you guys are. We already know that the ODM people are deceitful, so there's no news there. We already know that he was played, there's no news there. So what Kalonzo needs to understand is that he has no option. If he really thinks the last time the Kamba community was in government was really when Kalonzo went it alone the whole way, and after that he signed a post-election pact with Kibaki. That's the last time when the Kamba nation was actually in government. So if I am Kalonzo Musyoka, I should say, okay, let me go it alone. And another thing, hii madharau unaona akionyeshwa, and I don't understand why he doesn't see that. Because there is that madharau ameambiwa amechukua pesa, he can see how the principles of Azimio or One Kenya Alliance are treating him. He should understand there's no room for him there. But he needs to go alone. And if he doesn't go alone and he joins Azimio, he needs to understand that all the small parties in Ukambani, we are talking about Maendeleo Chap, Sijui Muungano Party, and even NAC. If Kalonzo actually joins Azimio, these smaller parties will win most of the parliamentary seats.
All right.
Yes.
Willie, does it change anything? Because this is an agreement that they had between Kalonzo Musyoka and Raila Odinga when they were in NASA. Under the current dispensation, the gentlemen are in Azimio. Oka is yet to formalize its entry into Azimio. Is it fair or just to carry their agreement between the two of them to bring it into a movement that cuts across and incorporates parties and political leaders who were not in the initial agreement?
All right. Politics is a game of chess. tactics and keep evolving, and you keep changing depending with how your opponent is playing. And I feel Kalonzo should by now, he should be reading the signs of the time. They are telling him it would be very good for you, this is what I feel, if you go alone and create a third force. Remember the guys who are running against William Ruto and William Ruto running against Raila, they would want a possibility of a third force, so that because of so that in case one doesn't get the 50+1 votes, now they can bring you in as a third voice. And I think he needs to pick that. Now the problem is Kalonzo and Oka, I don't believe they have the muscles and the strength to go as the third voice in this country. They don't have it. And so Kalonzo, he's just confirmed that he's a negotiator. There is no space for his negotiations as he used to hold there a while back. And so he needs to play his card right now. He needs to think whether to, and by the way, if he goes to William Ruto, Kalonzo's goose is cooked. The only place he can survive politically is where his 3 governors from Eastern are right now. But there is no much political weight behind Kalonzo right now. It is a cooked goose for him. So I would rather he go to Azimio and tell Raila, hey, let's forget the past, let's forge the way forward, because you already have most of my people on your team.
There's something also
he's struggling to find his space.
There's something also I want us to look at, the timing of this document. It comes just, is it a day, 2 days after the conventions by Jubilee and ODM? Could it be sending a strong message about what could be happening within the Azimio la Umoja movement? Because this document, I want to believe, has been there.
In fact, the only reason he has come out flashing this document is because he understands the other principles of the One Kenya Alliance are busy, just about to take off their pens and sign. So he's trying to show them, guys, I signed an agreement similar to the one you're about to sign, and this is where I am. Do you know, him unleashing that document is not for the electorate. He knows the electorate knows about the deceit, but he's trying to sort of tell the One Kenya Alliance principles, Gideon and the rest, that guys, don't be too quick to sign, because I have the same agreement and it's doing nothing for me. So I think, I actually totally disagree with you. Kalonzo has 2 options. He needs to go it alone the whole way and recall how that benefited the Kamba nation back when he signed a post-election agreement with Kibaki, or he actually needs to turn the other side and join UDA, because his options in Azimio as it is they are very crowded. There are so many, you know, he's not even looking at a seat as a deputy president. He's not looking at any kind of offer such as a high-level ministerial, you know, position. He's probably at the very best being offered what you would call an ambassadorial position in New York or somewhere. Not with all those people there. Remember, you have UPA in Azimio. Remember, you have so many. Azimio is crowded for Kalonzo, and these other people have got so much more to offer than he has. You know, we are forgetting that Jubilee has actually partnered with ODM. So the current government has partnered with ODM. All these cabinet secretaries who are so fearful not to resign because they've been offered position in the Azimio kind of arrangement. Where are you going to take Matiang'i when you tell Kalonzo you are going to give him interior ministry? No. So he needs to understand it is crowded there.
Yeah.
And he actually, because he says he's befitting to be a president, he should then use that courage and that, kama anasema kona electorate, he should use it to go the whole way by himself and think of signing a post-election agreement with whoever gets into government, or he needs to now change tact from always supporting people who do not reward you to now supporting William Samoei Ruto.
All right.
So, allow me just to say this.
We have a lot to cover very quickly.
Okay, politics is about numbers. What are you bringing on board? Kalonzo of 2017 is not the Kalonzo of now. He has not been able, and he does not have the strength to rally Western behind him right now. So even in UDA, they would ask him, are you going to run for an MP in one of those constituencies? Because what are you bringing on board? The only time he can have a meaningful position, whether in UDA or in Azimio, is being able to now retrieve these governors who already left him. Kitambo, he is a one-man army right now with no political numbers behind him, real numbers. He doesn't have it. And so that is why he's struggling to find his space right now.
All right. According to a statement that Oka released the other day concerning why they are postponing the official submission of documents to join Azimio, is they are giving room to welcome other partners. So a day in politics is a long time. Let's wait and see who are these partners, what could change between now and then before they do that officially. But let's move on. We are heading to a season of nominations as a country, and there is this concern about the amendments to the Political Parties Act that is going to give room for political such coalitions to go it as a joint outfit. This is different from what we have been having before, and concern is if we have not managed to have peaceful and sort of clean nominations in our country under a specific political party, how are we going to ensure that as a bloc like Azimio or as a bloc as Kenya Kwanza, there's going to be peace, there's going to be tolerance? How do we ensure that is there, in this new arrangement, Gloria?
I think, first of all, these alliances or coalitions or partnerships that we have, it doesn't necessarily mean that because you have a law, you actually have to be limited to it. One way to look at it is, for instance, with Kenya Kwanza, we have ANC, we have Ford Kenya, we have UDA. It is in the interest of all three parties that we actually get majority of the seats in the county assembly and in the National Assembly and in the Senate. So the obvious thing to do would be to have all parties just field candidates, Why should we limit our probabilities by only fielding one candidate when actually if we field three candidates as ANC, as Ford Kenya and as UDA, the chances of us winning these seats are higher. So the idea, which I think this is the way it should be taken, is we are in an alliance, yes. Let the strong candidate, if we are conducting individual party primaries within our parties, let each party actually bring their strong candidate. And if at all, when you make the math and you realize that it is advantageous of all three parties to field one candidate so that we don't, divide the votes, then so be it. But if it means that if all three candidates go, the chances is that one of ours will win, it means at one point after elections, you will have a number of elected leaders from ANC, a number of elected leaders from Ford Kenya, then from UDA, and then when you bring them all together in the basket and you count it as a sort of alliance, then you actually have a say against now, Azimio or the rest. So I don't think it should be mind-boggling. I think we should have free and fair nominations on party level. Let Ford Kenya conduct their nomination, UDA conduct their nomination, ANC conduct their nomination, and for Azimio, all their parties that they've lined up, let them all conduct their nominations, and then now we can come to the table with strong candidates and figure out, based on the numbers, whether we need to field one candidate or whether we need to field all three candidates. But the nominations should be really, it should not be that now because we have signed a pact with ANC, for instance, now, UDA doesn't field a candidate there. No, I believe that is not the way.
What do you think, Willie?
We have instances that are telling us where the nominations are headed. I can tell you for a fact that these general elections nominations or the elections is not about candidates, is about a party. Which candidate from which party? Remember, if today in Mount Kenya, a case in point in Murang'a, not Murang'a, Nyeri, they had a candidate who was running for governor, but there was some sort of negotiated democracy. They told him, you cannot beat this incumbent. Remember, the incumbents are the people with money, and they understand the political demographics better because they have been there in power doing what needs to be done. So they told him, you do this, don't run for governor. Support the incumbent who is in UDA for governor and go for a lower position, not necessarily a lower position, but go for a Senate position. And that was negotiated democracy because they did not have the luxury of fighting amongst themselves in a place where they need to show there is unity. And so moving forward, there will be a lot of negotiated democracy, and I can say there is no space and room for jokers, political jokers who are just getting into politics just to try. If you don't have the financial muscles, if you do not have the actual political numbers, trust me, you are just a joyrider in the political party you're supporting, because they will not pick you over a strong candidate or a richer candidate, because the general election is about parties. Which party will have many governors, which party will have many members of parliament, and so they will not waste their time and resources on jokers and weaklings.
When that time comes,
I'm laughing because there's an assumption that new entrants are jokers or weaklings.
No, not necessarily.
And the assumption made there actually is the reason why I keep reiterating that you have more than 50% of the incumbents not coming back.
This is what
power.
I mean.
So sometimes you might have all the money. I'll give you an example in Kisii. In the last elections, we had Jubilee and ODM, very powerful parties at that time. In my constituency, they both fielded very powerful and very well financially stable candidates for Bobasi constituency. Both candidates failed. Both candidates didn't make it. And in fact, the person who won was considered a political joker. You know, our current MP, at that time, you cannot say he had any muscle. There's no charm, no whatever. But he actually won. So sometimes I think there's an assumption that having been a veteran politician, it's going to be easy. No, as a matter of fact, the electorate is very awake and very aware that they know what they're looking for. So I think...
allow me to respond to her so that she gets where I'm coming from.
I think new entrants and even those who are not necessarily financially stable should not be underestimated.
Well said,
Gloria, this is what I meant. Nominations are shambolic affairs. It is not an IBC affair. It is a goon affairs. Who can steal the best? And so, remember, William Ruto...
Perhaps in the party is in...
No. In fact, you see, we have 2017 Jubilee nominations. The common denominator of the shambolic nominations of Jubilee is now the head of UDA. How do you know he's telling them to trust them? A man who is not worthy the trustworthiness. And this is the problem, Saf. Let me finish. After the nominations, there will be a lot of ranting and gnashing of teeth. Say, you the party are easy, tulikuwa tumeambiwa, and now they will jump to the other side. And this is what these parties are avoiding.
Allow me to put a cap on that particular note. Of course, in politics, we never really finish. Just put a comma and we'll be picking up this conversation definitely in the near future. Thank you so much, Gloria Roba and Willie Kamau, for creating time for us this morning as we were looking at the state of politics. Of course, something that we will be doing, consistently ahead of the 2022 general election. Now we want to pave way for the Swahili team. Kurunzi Mashinani and Tamrini coming up shortly. Don't go too far. My name is Afina Cheng Oma, and our sign language interpreter has been Susan Thuku.
Keep abreast of the developments live from the National Assembly and the Senate.
On our members of Parliament.
The questions.
When is the construction expected to commence?
The motions.
Beg to give notice for the following motion.
The debate.
Will as many as want to be to say aye?
The statements.
A statement on an issue of general topical concern.
The petitions.
Order number 4, petitions.
Stay tuned to KBC Channel 1 and Radio Taifa for live proceedings from both houses of parliament from Tuesday to Thursday. Live, uncensored, unedited. KBC, your national broadcaster.
Gone away, an angel in the sky now, and I shine my light up for you, for you. Then the moment came, and my wings took flight. I rise. See, I'm hurting but not broken. Wave my troubles bye-bye, 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 bye now.
You're a cheater.
Pinky, were you thinking you would divorce Jack and then raise the baby on your own? Is that it?
Pink, it's my baby. So think about it. If I gave up on Pinky and the baby and continue seeing you, what kind of father would I be?
Get out. Come on, get out.
God, Shannon.
We are still keen on Germany's DFB Pokal as the quarterfinals is around the corner. In football, it is easy to be intimidated by the top flight teams, but as fate would have it, new entrants do sometimes turn the tables with their patience, perseverance and self-belief.
Borussia Dortmund are out of the competition. St. Pauli take all the spoils.
It is therefore a tight affair this Tuesday, 1st of March 2022 at 10:45 p.m. in a match pitting Union Berlin against FC St. Pauli. Watch this spectacular duel live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC, your true sports partner.
Sisi hatuna haja na yeye. Haja yetu ni mama yake. Watakutupa jani kama taka wewe. Hivi ndivyo utakavyokuwa ukinikaribisha kila siku.
Nikisimama hapa namuona Kombo tu. Wewe sikuoni.
Zari hakustahili kuwa hai kabisa.
Mimi niko sawa.
Nataka nini mama?
Nyokabi alizaliwa. Matumaini yangu hujambo popote unapotazama runinga ya KBC na karibu kwenye Kurunzi Mashinani ikiwa zimekatika 11 baada ya saa 6. Mimi ni Zainab Said, katika lugha ya ishara ni Lucy Mwaura. Moja kwa moja